Lala has a special announcement today.
I do. I'm back. Hello.
Were you gone, Lala?
Yeah.
Oh,
I'm sure you didn't notice it. Well, at the rate that I was bothering you at times.
Is it true you got married?
I can neither confirm nor deny.
In Vietnam, Bill, in Vietnam.
What? You look in Vietnam? Oh, that's a first.
Yeah, in
That'll be a
Vietnam.
first.
So Lala, who's the lucky cat?
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
Are you allowed to marry more than one cat in Vietnam?
Yeah, I think so. Seemed okay.
They eat cats in Vietnam.
Don't remind me. They used to, okay? It's no longer like that.
So once the marriage is pretty much gone all rocky, you're just like, yeah, I'm gonna eat you now. Done.
Oh, got it. Yeah. It's economical.
Actually sounds like a pretty good setup.
You make it sound like a black widow spider or something, man.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, Benny.
Yes, we can.
Right, so should we get into it?
Yeah. Do you want to go start with questions first?
Yeah, sure, can do, yep.
All right, so we have some previous questions from last week from Rec, and I'll kick it off with those, and then I will follow up with the ones that were shared yesterday. So the first one is, has any more thought gone into having a laddered price system for such achievements? Example, a BTC for full clearance and NFTs for each lesser tier.
Ultimately, yes, it's something that we're looking at. It's something that we're working at what the best way to implement is. I think the thing that's most important for us is that there's a lot of these things that we need to do, but they need to follow an order, because once you've got the stability and once you've got the platform ready and you've got the tools and you've got the games functioning and you've got all of the multiplayer abilities and all the rest of it, it's very easy to add things like the levels and tiers and all of that type of stuff. But when you don't have those things in place first, if you just add leaderboards and ladders and stuff on top and the games aren't stable or the environment's not able to scale or the capacity or something's not right with it, those things have to come first. So it's always, as is the case with us with everything, that we've got 10, 12, 15 things on the plate and we're sort of just moving through them systemically one by one. But it is definitely something that we're looking at. Maybe Urban Gecko wants to add some more context to that.
Yeah, we've got a few important upgrades we're busy doing at the moment that is going to, once they're done, they will allow us to start implementing a whole bunch of features that we've got planned. So it's just a matter of we getting the important stability stuff for the foundation done so that we can start adding all those beautiful things. Just like, for example, a leaderboard system, because of the way we've designed everything and the way we're using PlayFab. That's something that can be implemented, and once we implement it in one place, it can be implemented everywhere, rather than doing these custom little solutions everywhere. So we've got to get that big foundation right, because that's, once we implement it once, then it's implemented everywhere.
Leading up to that question is, how hard would it actually implement such a system?
I think that the thing is, it depends on what we want to do. Obviously, again, if you're building a platform that gives the creators and users tools, the idea is to allow those creators and users to be able to have a bit of flexibility in how they set things up. Because when you're offering stuff as part of an SDK or an API, then you're giving people the opportunity to, I guess, Luke, maybe you can explain this better than me, but when you've got those foundational tools, you have the ability to do some sort of custom configuration. And that's important, because if you look at a game like Fear versus a game like Beer Pong, they're very different. And the way that those ladders and those the grades and the levels that you go through, they'll be very different in their structure.
There you go. Would you like to add on anything?
No, I think that's pretty good. Yeah, I just think you just need to be selective about what you do build in that regard as well, and you don't want to just put everything in there, because it kind of becomes inefficient and less appealing, harder to use. So yeah, you have to be quite selective with it, and there's an art to that. But yeah, I mean, making this stuff available and easily accessible and all the rest of it is very important, and obviously it makes future development much easier as well. Get it right.
All right, there you go. Moving on to KB76. His first question is, so much unused green in the vault, could we make use of it as a golf course? Play against humans or against AI avatars to simulate vault crowd traffic?
Actually, it's a really good question. We, some period of time ago, we were speaking to a couple of the golfing bodies, as well as also all of the former #1 players in the world. And they had this exact topic come up, and they wanted to build a golf course. They wanted to build it in Calanova, for example. And what we were saying at that time was, you can't have golf balls flying around if you're trying to walk from one place to another, or have people getting in the way. It was very difficult to be able to do that as an on top of the platform thing. Now, as Luke's mentioned many times before as well, our objective is to get the platform as stable as it possibly can be, and then to not touch it if we don't have to. It's just the upgrades that you know, custom upgrades or some cosmetic stuff that you want to do, but you shouldn't be going in there and tinkering all the time. Now, if you've got a game on top of that as well, then you're going to be continually tinkering and playing with it. And that's why the districts became such a better solution for us, because it means that people can have that game in a separate section and it doesn't interrupt the main platform. So although there can be definitely themes built through Q5, for example, or you know, trails, treasure hunts, that type of stuff, it's a lot more difficult to have game mechanics on top of that platform, because, as I say, every time there's a problem with it, or it needs to be upgraded, or something needs to happen, you've got to do that to the whole platform. Luke, did I get the context of that right?
Yeah, that was. I think you answered that really well. It's definitely we don't want to complicate the core quarters and in turn the platform as well, but there are mechanics that we're looking at putting into the to the SDK through scripting that we could also implement in the core vault without, you know, introducing anything new or too disruptive. But we just have to be very selective about it, because, as Ben said, the stability of that core platform and the quarters themselves is very important, and we don't want to be making changes to that and making that unstable. The stability of that will support everything else, and obviously it's not fair on district owners and anyone else who wants to set up an experience to have an unstable OS operating system, I guess. So yeah, that's. But as Ben said, I think that the whole notion of that happening really got replaced by in those core quarters really got replaced by the districts anyway, because doing that in the middle of a quarter now kind of seems silly to us. I mean, it's cool as in using up the space and everything else, but trying to cram everything in and having 10 different games on top of each other, like we once imagined, you know, is it just seems silly now. But I think we can add some cool little mini games to the core vault without, you know, without creating any complexity or ongoing issues. And there's stuff coming around that as well, just little tiny mini games and hunts and things like that we can do without disrupting the stability too much.
Look, I think it's fair to say, in no uncertain terms, that the solution that was provided with the districts is probably the most significant addition that we've had to the Vault almost ever, because that's completely changed the possibilities and made it a lot better. I think I'll go out on a limb and say it's probably the most important thing that we've implemented so far.
And if I agree, and I just don't think I don't think we knew how to scale. That was a bit of a aha moment, and we kind of went, okay, well, not only can we expand to those districts, to that limited number of districts, but we can create sub districts, which is just, you know, the thought of that is crazy. Just districts inside of districts inside of districts, and the the ability to scale is exponential. And as technology changes, I mean, there's probably a ceiling at the moment purely based on the performance of the servers that are available and everything, but that's evolving so quickly. So I think by the time we hit that problem, there'll be a very good solution for it.
All right, next question is Twitter the only or the right channel to our audience? It's not used everywhere. For example, in Europe, it's rarely used. So I think I can answer this first part. Anyone else from the team can also jump in. Twitter is mainly a communication platform that we see has really gotten us the most interaction between the VR community as well as the current crypto community as well. But at this point, it's not the only one that we're tapping into. Like I mentioned previously, we are also tapping into side quests. So it's different platforms that will definitely push for growth, because that is really what we want. We want new users to come in. We want people to try it out. And hence why we've been doing a lot of walkthroughs. We have tried other platforms to connect with VR content creators, and we never get a reply, honestly. Most of them would be on Twitter, surprisingly. And that's really where we see us getting more users at this current time. So yeah.
I'd go as far as to say that it's probably a little bit controversial, but the fact is I think Twitter's gotten 10 times better since Elon Musk's taken it over as well. And although a lot of people might not still use it in certain parts of the world, it is one of the most powerful media platforms in the world. And I think that the people that don't like it have really realised that they're starting to see unfiltered comments and people's views and opinions, and there probably some people are working out they don't actually like people, and it might be the first time in their life they've worked that out. But it's a pretty vibrant and controversial platform. But ultimately, as Lala was saying, we have to go where the audience is as well. And once we start transitioning away from just traditional crypto and much more into the user side of things, the headset users and the people that are going to frequent the Vault might frequent much different platforms as well. So for everybody, it's a bit of trial and error, because those aren't firmly established as of yet, and they change so frequently as well.
Agreed. All right, question number 3. With a potential upcoming bull market, could you rephrase the narrative a little bit with more shilling of the bright future ahead?
Yeah, I think there were 2 objectives. The first objective was to make sure that we really did a push right now, which I'm sure most of you have seen is happening, and that was to lay the foundation for new people coming in. And to do that, you have to have good foundational content. And for us, it was really important that anyone new coming in didn't have to troll through 5 years worth of history. And admittedly, we're still cleaning that up and narrowing that down. But a lot's changed in 5 months, let alone 5 years. So it was just important to lay that foundational content down, make sure that people coming in could pick up where we are at pretty quickly. And then once you do that, then it's really about what sort of a future lies ahead. So you'll see the narrative shift towards being more focused on how bright the future is, or what you might term as shilling. It's more about just being able to showcase what we've actually built. Most projects are hype based until they've got a product. Now that we've got a product, it's about promoting that product. So that's a pretty exciting part of the journey.
All right. Question number 4. Chances of a 0.01 cent VFOX rewards in 2024. Percentage indication 0 to 100%. Basically, this is the chance of us earning any rewards by staking VFOX.
That's a 2024.
Yep, it is in 2024.
Yeah, for sure. It's now a matter of, for us, it's a matter of getting those tools in the creators' hands as quickly as we can. That's why we have to follow that order. So going back to the previous questions, that's why it's really, really important that we're actually very much focused on getting that into people's hands, which is very, very important, and making sure that we've got the ability for those guys to earn and create stuff that they can sell. So once you've got all that stuff in place, then you're in a good spot. But yes, of course, every chance.
Perfect. Okay. Question number 5. Marketing narrative is currently only on the Vault AI through customization. Does this mean we only focus on users/district owners, or should we also try to gain new RFOX token holders? If so, the tokens should gain slightly more media coverage. My assumption is the use case of tokens is not clear or not communicated.
Yeah, so again, that goes back to the earlier points we made in relation to saying that once the platform's fully functional from a tool access perspective and that people can come in and build and create whatever they like, that's where the token comes into play. So it's got to be one before the other. If you're just focusing on promoting a token that doesn't have the full utility turned on, doesn't make much sense. But if you quickly, and you can tell what we're doing with how fast we're building. And what iteration are we up to now, Luke? I think we're up to what, 86 or 87 of the Vault. I'm not sure what the public's up to, I forget.
88.
Okay, so 88. So we're up to 88 versions. So the fact is we're moving as fast as you possibly can move to make sure that this all comes together. As we said, the last PI that we did was a bit less sexy because it was about sort of delivering on promises and making sure that we got up to speed and cleared away our backlog as best as we could. This PI, which I'm sure Luke will talk about when he goes through the product stuff, is a lot more moving forwards and at warp speed. Pardon me, I'm losing my voice. So the thing is that you really see that we move towards getting into a position where the token can have the utility that's always intended to have. So that has to have first. Otherwise, you can live that hype for a little bit of time, but then if there's nothing to back it up, it's just going to fall away. So what we need to do is make sure that what we have is sustainable.
All right, the last question. When will we get an updated roadmap on rfox.com?
Yep, so I'll take that one. So we're working at the moment on building it out. It's drafted and it's doing the rounds at the moment just to make sure that we have 100% consensus on it. Part of the reason for the delay was we had our PI sessions, our program increments don't perfectly line up with the start of the month. We're trying to get that, the start of the quarters. We're trying to get that lined up at the moment, so we have 2 perfect PIs in each quarter. So that's delayed us a little bit in getting it out, but we're only a few days away. So we just need to get final sign off on that, and then we'll put it up. But we've talked about some of the stuff. I think a lot of it will be understood, that the journey will be understood, and we can talk about it a bit more next week. But it's very close. We did want to actually do that planning today, though, to make sure that we're committing to everything that we're putting in there as well. I think we've shown that although things move around a little bit sometimes, and sometimes a bit late on certain things, we are committed to that roadmap, and what we put up there, we do our very best to try and accomplish. So we don't just put things up there willy-nilly. We want to be serious about it and commit to it and get behind it.
All right, so we cleared those.
I had one line.
Yep.
I had one come through. It's actually
Sure.
another one of these. It's a bit of a stickler question, but it said, Luke, I might get you to help me with this one. I think everyone from the team can answer it. It says, with AI progressing as rapidly as it is, would you assume that that puts you in a vulnerable position against anyone else wanting to come into the metaverse space? Great question, and it's good that we answer and tackle these. But the thing is that AI is effectively a way for us to enhance the offerings and the tools that we have, and it will help people to create and design stuff more easily, more rapidly, more cost effectively, including us. But ultimately, you put that type of an advantage on top of what we've already built, and that actually gives us a significant advantage. And I think that for those that are in the building side of things, they already know that's the case, because we're already getting people that we're, as I said, going to build or have built and deployed elsewhere, talking to us about, okay, now does this make it easier for us to integrate what we've got into what you're building as well? Or we were building a metaverse and we had the funding pulled, or we pulled the pin. Tell us more about these districts. So I think, if anything, I get the question and I understand it, but from my perspective, it's if you've got what we've got, it's a massive turbo boost, and it's like putting nitrous in your car or something. But the fact is that starting from scratch, you still have to do a lot of work. There's a lot of technical decisions. There's a lot of infrastructure that has to be planned and laid out. I think it's still a very difficult proposition for someone to come along and just build a metaverse. It's not as easy as that. Otherwise, everyone would do that. Luke or Pete or
just on the AI stuff, just to cover off on my thinking on that. So everyone's using AI at the moment. You know, it's such a popular thing, but I don't think it's really being used in the correct way, and I don't really think we understand what it's capable of, or what its best use case is at the moment. Like, I'm sure, you know, my grandma used it to make her shopping list this morning. People are just using it for everything, but I think it'll come down to how you use it, how it's implemented, and you know, really using it in inventive ways. So if you think about the internet, people don't think back to, how did the internet start and who started it, and they're not important things to people. It's like, what was built on top of the internet? And when did Twitter start? When did Facebook start? Why were they built? Why are they successful? These things are built on top of a technology, and it's not the technology itself that's going to define the future and the way these things work for the foreseeable future. It's what people build on top, how they build it, how they implement it. And I think that's where we've got a clear vision. We've got some really clear ideas on how we are going to be inventive and how we are going to push AI to the next level and use it in ways that I think a lot of other projects probably haven't even thought about yet. Well, I hope they haven't. That's my take on
it. Or Micah? Or Phil? Any of you?
I think I'm sitting in a very similar perspective as what Luke is, where everybody's kind of scrambling at the moment, and AI is being tested in all these different environments, and like the potential and the impact of what it's going to do isn't necessarily known yet. It's not even in early stages, I don't believe. And everybody's scrambling, and everybody's just kind of scratching the surface with using it for these random little tasks, but no one's actually truly leveraging it and being exponentially progressive with it. And I think that's what something is going to change. And I think a lot of people are stuck in a position where they want to do something, but there's an AI for everything. So you want to do an AI for this, you want to do an AI for that, you want to do an AI for this, and you just start trying to plug them all together, and then none of them work together, and it's all still very, very messy at the implementation level. So there's a lot of evolution that still has to happen. So I don't think, as fast as what is progressing, I don't think it's as fast as people make it out to be.
And if I can just chime in, the way I understood the question is, eventually with AI, can someone build a platform like us? And this has been asked of me personally a few times. And the answer I always give is possible that someone could create a platform like the Vault with VR someday. I don't think it's we're very close to that actually happening, but there's also a huge infrastructure behind this thing. There's and a lot of thought that goes into integrating the things other people build. A lot of thought goes into the commercials.
The scaling aspect of that.
So I don't think it would be, someone would be instantly competitive because of AI.
Just based on what you were just saying, Phil, I definitely agree with that. But I think it's the components themselves might be able to be built at some point, but there's so much creativity and thought and everything else that Phil mentioned that I don't know how that's going to work. I'm not saying it can't work with AI, but I can't see that happening in the short term. But it's the pieces, it's the thought going into individual components and how it ties together and how it interacts, and there's a lot to it. But yeah, I mean, I'm sure at some point down the road, someone's going to be able to build that. But hopefully by then we've leveraged the tools as well, and we'll be miles ahead of where we are now too.
Well, to add to what Luke said, there's just a couple of common problems we have right now, which AI isn't even close to being able to solve yet. It's just the basic problem of file format and cross-compatibility. That alone is a huge issue, which you can prompt an AI all you want. It can't make 3D assets yet for you that are at a standard that can be used and are good enough, and that's still going to be a while away. But the problem comes in with file formats, and that's what you're seeing at the moment, is everybody's trying to figure out these little tricks and tips to make things compatible with other things when there's just no standards. There's no standards whatsoever. Everyone's just shooting in the dark, trying to solve their own personal problem.
I think all of you have made great points, and it's true. And Pete, I'd love to hear what you say as well. I think the thing that's really important to understand as well, to Micah's point, is we have a lot of people in our team compared to a normal crypto project, and we would be one of the most stretched teams you'll ever come across. It is non-stop back-to-back meetings, which we don't like. It's not something to brag about. We want to be more time in the productive side, but the fact is there's so many decisions that need to be made. There's so many moving pieces. So when these people sort of say, we've got a 3-man team and we're going to build a metaverse, I think to myself, like, what's that going to be like? It doesn't matter what tools you've got at your disposal. Like Luke and the others covered off, and Phil said about how much thought goes into stuff. There's so much decision making, and if you get one decision wrong, it can curtail or take you off the rails for everything that you're doing. So it's not an easy feat. There's no doubt about that. I welcome anybody to try, and all the people that are building metaverses in this space. Hats off to them if they've actually got to a product stage, because I reckon for every company that's actually got a product out, there's thousands of companies that have just failed. Pete, any thoughts that you want to add?
Yeah, my take on it is basically it's an ever evolving space. So decisions that were made. I mean, I've been with a company for 2+ years, right? 2.5 years already, and we've made decisions in the past that were wrong. And if you ask me to go back in time, would I have made decisions like that? Would we have made decisions like that? Yeah, sure. Because at that time, we were making decisions based on facts that were known and data that were known at that time, right? Not what we know now. Of course, hindsight's always 20/20, right? And if everyone can see the future, then we wouldn't be here. But we got to make decisions based. I mean, like just today itself, we made a bunch of decisions that hopefully moving forward is the right decisions. But again, this space can change so much that in 6 months we may go back and, oh, wait a minute, maybe 20% of decisions that will be made on 5th of July may not be applicable, right? Or maybe then there could be tools that we could look back and say, oh shit, we shouldn't have built those tools. 6 months time, the tools will be available, but we don't know that right now. Right now, when we're building this stuff, none of the tools are available. At least we've looked at it, we've searched for it. So our only choice is to build it.
It's a good point, and I've said this many times before, and I've said it to the team as well. If you're sentimental about saying we spend a ton of time on building something, and you're not prepared to say, right, time to move on or throw it away, or there's something better, or we should be doing this because it is the better option now, you can't be sentimental in this space. You've got to be able to say, look, there's a better option, and pride or sticking with something that's inferior when there's a better option because you thought, well, that's a sunk cost, we've put money into that, is just going to end up, you're going to end up way at the back of the pack behind everybody else. You've got to be able to just say it's not good enough, doesn't serve the purpose, there's something better now. And as Pete said, I think we spent probably 3 to 4 years in territory of there's nothing that can actually build that, or that can do that. There's no tool available. We have to build it from scratch. But by the time you build something out, we could bring it out, and then a week later there could be 30 options on the market, or there could be 50 options on the market, or there could be none. You just don't know what's going to happen by the time you get there. So you can't also exercise the thought of, well, we really need it and we have to have it to get to the next phase, but we're not going to bother building it because we'll just hope that other people have the same problem and they're going to be trying to build a solution. We would have been sitting around for years on our hands waiting for people to build stuff that never came. So it's a really tricky situation.
And to extend to that, some of the things that we thought that the industry would move and eventually have those tools, we're still not there yet, right? Which then comes, we come full circle and says, I think it's time for us to build those tools, right? And I in my previous life, I came from a very different industry. It's semiconductor manufacturing. It's very predictive. People want true and tested technology. This space, everything's moving. We're bleeding edge tech. Most of the time, the pioneers are the ones building the stuff. There's no existing stuff. There's no case studies. There's no, you could compare 30 different tools and figure out which tool is the one that best suited you, because there's no 30 tools, right? There's no tools. You either build it or, like you said, hope that someone builds it that you could leverage off. But it's a fun space. No doubt about that. I have no regrets.
Okay, so is there more questions, Lala? Because if there's not, maybe we hand over to Luke to do a product overview, because I think he's got a bit to update us on.
Yeah, we do have one from Hanford, which was, has RFOX reached out to any other VR games right now to see if there is any interest in being made available in the metaverse?
Phil can add some context as well, but I can say that we've talked to lots of people that have got VR games or are VR builders, and we're speaking to a number now. But the thing is that, and Luke or Luke can add some context as well, but the thing is, it's a matter of, I think the simplest way to explain it for those who are not initiated or understand, and I'm a tech tard, so I can explain it in a way that everybody can understand, I hope. The thing is, if you add a game, if you just click it in, so imagine a truck and a car and a trailer and you just whack it on the back, then the problem is that thing's always going to be hooked up together, and every time that there needs to be a change or whatever, that's going to be part of the overall main build. If you build it in a different way, or you offer the tools and you get things done the right way and the way we're going, then what happens is people can come and build using our SDKs. They can build in their own instance, and that would mean that they are effectively able to update, upgrade their space without having to wait for a new production build to come out from our side. So what you don't want is to keep whacking stuff onto the core, because it makes it much more unstable. It makes it much more difficult to deal with. It makes updates much harder. So the issue is not, do we have people that are interested, or are we talking to VR builders? It's a matter of, for the first time in our history, we've really been able to say, sorry, we can't help you, or no. Whereas we used to drop whatever we were doing, place priority on it and say, look, these guys are interested, so let's just change the order of things around and make it happen. And now we're literally going back and saying, sorry, that's not available for 6 months, or not available at all. So it's a matter of bringing the VR games on in the right way. Luke or Phil, do you want to add some context to that?
Sure. Yeah, there is definitely plenty of interest from, especially from the existing platforms like Spatial or VR Chat. There's a lot of interest, mainly because the one big complaint from their creators is monetization, right? And I think the Vault will be able to do that better than most of these platforms.
Yeah, for sure, 100%. Luke, was that explained properly in relation to the way the build?
I don't think I've got anything to add on that one.
Awesome.
All right. So I think before we go into the newer questions, because we're kind of running out of time, I think we can go through the updates. Is that all right with everybody? Then we'll go back to the questions on main chat.
Yeah, Luke.
So yeah, as I mentioned before, we had planning today. We had our PI planning session. So we are very clear on the next 6 weeks, and for the quarter as a whole. And a lot of the stuff that we talked about tonight is part of the focus, bolstering our AI functionality, and another big one, which is not a huge piece of work, but I think will have a big impact, is getting at least mobile access to some of these VR experiences that are VR only at the moment. And I'm not saying they'll be full experiences, but what I am saying is that we'll grant more access to those, so people coming in on mobile have more to do, even if it's just a spectator type scenario at the start. But we really want to open that up and not make it restrictive. We had to sort of do it the way we did because we always build VR first, and we had to, get some of that stuff moving and happening quickly. So we allowed the VR stuff to happen in isolation, but obviously we know we need to go and fix that. So it's really not a huge amount of work to do that first phase, but it's definitely something we want to cover off on. So pretty confident about that, and also getting like I said, the AI bolstered is a big thing, and making sure that we stay ahead of that curve and we're using it properly. And once again, not for not for the purpose of gimmicks or getting on the bandwagon. We want to actually stay ahead and use it to really advance the Vault. Phil might want to add onto this one, but KOGs Quest is nearly ready. So we've got a complete version with NFT rewarding that we're testing at the moment. So I would say we're a few business days away from that. Phil, you want to...
we'll definitely launch next week. The only reason it won't come earlier is because we refuse to launch anything on a Friday or a Monday. But the one thing I can tell you to prepare is so all the accounts will be reset because we are moving to RFOX ID v2. So you should, if you haven't done so already, you should get yourself sign up for an RFOX ID and connect your Wax wallets or wallet. And then the way we're going to be releasing the rewards is it's going to be one design per week for the first 6 weeks. There are 5 designs. The only reason we will give 2 weeks for the first design is because we know you guys need to go through the first level, or at least the initial stages to get to the prestige, where the rewards are opened up. So prepare. Get yourself a RFOX ID and please connect your Wax wallet as soon as now, so that you have no trouble when the game launches.
Thanks, mate. I'll continue on. The citizens have been integrated into the Vault. We've had a couple of test builds where we've had a sort of a sample. I think that's been really good to see that, and we're really excited about getting them in there. We've just been working on the quality side of it, so we're chipping away at that side of things at the moment. We expected a final build today, but we're hoping we'll get it in the morning, and then we'll just do our final checks on it. So I know we're sort of a week late, but we wanted to get it right. The last thing we wanted to do was get to this point and then not do them justice and have them looking really good. So that's what we're working on at the moment. And to answer a previous question, I can't remember who asked it, but what we were doing last week, that was a big part of it. We were deep in a citizen integration hole last week. So we had a couple of people sick as well, but that really, from a work standpoint, is why we were absent last week. And I'm glad we did it, because we're further along than we would have been otherwise. So we are going to get very close to that deadline, which is great. The other thing that's slightly delayed is the apartment release. We've actually done a fair bit of work on that already, and you would have seen from the lobby and the lifts and all the rest of it. We've done a lot of that groundwork. NFT gating, token gating was a huge part of that as well. That's done. So all the components are there. It's just a matter of integrating the art, which we're working on at the moment. And that's one of the first cabs off the rank for this new PI, which is starting on Monday. So very close on that as well. KOGs Slam was taken down today from the Google Play Store. It's still available for existing users and everything, but new downloads aren't possible. And obviously the focus now is on us adding features into the Valt version and getting that not only at par but surpassing that the mobile version. So that's what we're working on at the moment. And that leads me to the next thing, which is one of the reasons we're doing that is because of the RFOX ID version 2 integration that we've been doing. So the last two products for that were KOGs Quest and the NFT creator tool. It's done in the creator tool and that's up and working. So that's already been moved across. KOGs Quest is done and we're in that final testing stage now. So just a reminder that version 1 will be shut down on the 19th of July. We're looking at options to see if we can give people so they can still access their wallets if we do go past that date and someone's got a bit of an emergency. So we're just working on that. But the plan is still on the 19th. It'll be disabled and turned off. So I know that's probably inconvenient for some, but it's actually really setting us up for the future. And we had to do that change because we needed a robust auth system that tied in with everything else on our back end, and we really needed to do that now before we got too far down this road. So it's actually really exciting for us to see that in place and happening, and that was a big milestone to get over, and it wasn't a very exciting one. So the hard things that aren't exciting in life are the hardest things to get through, but we're really glad to see the end of that. Now we can get back to the fun stuff. Do you have anything, Pete, you wanted to add onto the product side of things?
Lala's gonna make that announcement, I guess, for KOGs.
Okay. And Phil, do you got anything else? Or we covered everything?
Yeah, I think
I
we
think
covered
the KOGs
everything.
one we'll cover last.
Okay, cool. All right, that's it for me.
Yeah, the announcement's going to be posted on Discord as well.
A quick one. Thought I'd just hit one of those questions because it's an interesting one. Stillrec, you wrote, I've seen a few projects really starting to use spatial who also have an interest in the RFOX ecosystem. In your opinion, is it because projects want to spread their brand awareness, or are RFOX missing something from their product list, e.g. free usable spaces? So a couple of things there. I can't speak on behalf of everybody else, but I spoke to one project and they basically stated that they had a launch coming up and they needed to go. They needed a space. So for them, it was more sort of timing, and what they wanted to do, it wouldn't have been able to be available to them through us for a little bit of a time. So, but their intention is to still build. But in relation to the free usable spaces, it's a different type of crowd and a different type of audience, because if you've actually got the free spaces versus something that's not free, you've got to take into consideration that you're going to get a different type of experience. And one of the pluses or minuses of a spatial is that people say there's a lot of experiences already up. They also say that there's a lot of stuff you've got to sift through to get to the good stuff. But it's a completely different type of environment. And I think you will see people deploy in 4, 5, 6 different spaces. I've no if buts or maybes about that or questions about that. What you should get is people that deploy in our space should be coming along and saying, okay, it's not free for me to build. I have to acquire a space or negotiate a deal with somebody, and therefore it's a cost, it's an investment. And I think that also there's a lot of people that are building in this space, and there's a lot of people that are building experiences that don't know whether or not they're going to get any traction, any return. So, you know, if it was me, I would probably, if I wasn't sure, I'd probably have a little bit of a sniff around to see whether or not I actually was onto something, and there's nothing wrong with that. But what we want to do is really set a benchmark to say that if you do have something and it's a premiere type of experience or event or showcase or game, then you should come to us, because this is where the eyeballs are going to be for high quality projects.
I think every project has got its plus and minus, and you read a lot of stuff. I haven't spent a lot of time in Spatial. I do go in there and I do have a look. I do have a look at all the other projects, but I think, you know, they've all got bugs. They've all got their own little nuances. I think they've all got their own advantages and disadvantages. And as Ben said, I think the good creators and the good projects and the good experiences that are built will be on multiple platforms, at least in the early stages. So I don't see that as an issue at all. I just think that we're here to run the long race and we want to do it properly. And, you know, if things happen while we're still building, then we can't lose focus. It's nothing to do with us. It's none of our business. We just need to keep building our own metaverse and make sure that we're building the best thing possible and staying true to our vision.
Good answer. What else have we got, Lala, that we have missed, or is there any other updates that anyone wants to share? Anything else from your side, Pete? Or
yeah, KOGs. So talking to the community quite a bit, and you know, based on feedback and back and forth, we've decided to take an allocation from the redemption side of things for Grim2 and move it into the crafting side of things. So starting tomorrow, you'll be able to craft Grim2 Packs, and the limit is 1,000. So of course, there's a limit of 1,000. Of course, I mean, based on the data, I don't think it will run out until at least the next claim at the end of the month or beginning of the month of August. But yeah, that's basically, I mean, a lot of people wanted to claim but couldn't because of the recent bug in the claiming that allowed people to claim multiples. So this will actually allow those same people to be able to craft Grim's2 Packs. And yeah, we'll still be leaving another 1,000 for redemption. So we're kind of just allocating 1,000 for crafting. And I think for redemption, we'll still have slightly over 1,000 left. So if you still want to burn COGs, you can still burn COGs. The announcement for all the details will be posted in the announcement channel. I think, Lala, in 4 minutes, I believe.
Yep, correct.
Yeah.
Someone
Any questions?
Someone let burst of energy know.
Yeah, he's asleep right now. It'll be a few hours before he wakes up, but yeah. So yeah, crafting will start at, I mean, my time, 8 a.m. So that's about, give or take, 10 hours from now. So it's midnight GMT.
okay, any other questions that we've missed?
I think Hanford had a following question to the arcade. Following question to not the arcade. The reaching out to other games that want to build in the metaverse. He mentioned, I was thinking more of an arcade type setting where a group of friends can come in and game hop for the day without having to go to the menu in the headset. Can instances not just be linked to the game that exists?
That's a really good question. And I think if you can answer that question, you should really quickly go and start a game studio because you're going to be really rich. Because that problem exists for a lot of open world games, and especially for us in that how do you have a big open world experience or platform with multiple experiences hanging off of it that grows exponentially, but still tiny enough, which it has to be, to get on to these app stores, and without having to figure out all the technology to connect these things together. That's a really difficult question to answer. I think us setting up these addressables, which are those packages that get pulled down when you enter a experience, as painful as it is the first time you go in, I think that's a really good solution, and it's a tried and tested solution, and we can see that improving and getting better as well. We're already thinking about ways of making that easier and better. But the next big thing from there would be being able to, obviously, as you said, connect live games that exist somewhere else and aren't even on that ecosystem. The problem on mobile, if we start in that simple, more simplistic way, just doing that on mobile is very difficult because you either have to shell out to another app, so you're calling another app and you're swapping from one to the other, or you're doing something web-based, and how that works on mobile is questionable at this stage. In Unity, there's a endpoint called WebGL, which is a web-based version of Unity, but most of the plugins we're using in the Vault have to be adapted, or either have to be adapted or won't work in that scenario. So then you have to have a separate build that's dumbed down. All of these projects are facing these same problems as when they try and expand exponentially like this. But holy grail is if you had WebGL based experiences that were VR compatible, because when you add VR to this, running a web app in VR is just, at the moment, it's not really a thing. There's tools available, you can do it, but it's not really a thing. So that's a massive hurdle to get over. So in a VR headset, calling something that's not installed on your headset externally over the internet in a web-based format with limited plugins is extremely difficult. But really, that's what I wanted to build from the start. I think I was a bit naive about how some of this stuff worked when I started, and I think that was a good thing because I tried to aim very high on that. I wanted to be able to just call web experiences, and I couldn't really understand why. And it took me a while to actually get my head around why that wasn't a thing. But again, as technology changes and evolves, we'll get closer and closer to that. But there's so many differences, and even if we're just talking about using a Unity experience that's built on another platform that's in every other way pretty much identical, even that doesn't work because the way they connect voice and multiplayer and everything else will be different, which is why all these SDKs exist. The limitation and the problem with the SDKs is you have to build something pretty much from scratch, and if you've got an environment already set up you can pull assets from, maybe you can save a bit of work on that rebuild, but then you get to the scripting part, you build it, you've got all your assets in there, it's looking nice, but then you go, all right, now I want to put the game mechanics in. Oh, these are different scripting engine. All right, there's no way of converting that across. So then you're rebuilding that component. It's really, really hard, and it gets harder and harder as you grow and as this complexity gets added into that core platform. So I think it'll end up being a hybrid scenario where a lot of the creation stuff is happening inside of the experience. So you can build without any external tools or anything else. So being able to build in-game and have a permanent solution that you can deploy, I think that once that gets better, that's going to be a big thing. But it's really, really hard. And getting people to adapt existing projects is really, really hard. They just don't want to do it for obvious reasons. So you just have to make it as universal as possible. You have to make it as easy as possible for people to migrate. And I think at this point in time, that's about the best we can do.
So unless anyone's got anything else to add, anything else from your side, Lala?
Not much. Just a reminder for RFOX ID V1, make sure you transfer it out. Those who have issues, don't worry. We understand that some people have a certain bug that will be sorted on the 10th of July. I will look into everyone that has issues, making sure everybody gets a transfer on time. Remember, 19th of July is the deadline, so do keep that in mind. And we have, as usual, a community hangout on Saturday, same time as our AMA. Feel free to drop by. We'll show you some stuff, probably have a game night and everything else in between, just to socialize and have fun with everybody else. So, yep, make sure to check the announcements on KOGs that I'm going to be posting in a couple of minutes. And yeah, that's pretty much it for me.
Thank you very much, guys, for attending. Appreciate your time, everyone. Have a fantastic week, and look forward to seeing you in the vault.
Thanks,
Take care, everyone.
everybody.
Stay safe.
See you soon.
Thanks, guys.
Cheers, everybody.